Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Pete Perez. Welcome to the September meeting of the Public Art and Culture Commission. The Public Art and Cultural Commission, originally called the Public Art Board, was established at Asheville City Council in the year 2000. This 9-member commission serves as an advisory board to the city on matters concerning art and public spaces. The commission is responsible for promoting public art in the city, overseeing the city's public art projects, and ensuring that art displays in public buildings and public spaces in the city of Asheville are properly maintained. All committee members and staff are participating in person. Anybody that's speaking, please speak into your mics. So the first item that we have is the draft minutes from the May meeting. Charlie, thank you for the correction that you sent us with that. Does anybody else have any changes to that? Okay, could I get a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay, thank you all.
A couple of quick announcements. You all have a new member that's replacing Penelope. Her first day will be next meeting, your October meeting. That's Kimberly Courier with the new TA Explore Asheville representative. She'll be at your next meeting. Your next meeting is October 17th, 4 p.m. I also have one other quick announcement that's not on here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dave Hazard. I'm an urban designer in the planning department covering for Carly. I'm also the staff liaison for the Asheville Riverfront Commission. And we have a number of, well, we have 2 open seats, but one of the open seats is for an artist. Preferably an artist that has a connection to the River Arts District or some, experience or connection with that group or with that community. I thought this would be a great group to either one, I'm interested, two, and you have a huge network of artists and folks, but that is a seat that is currently open on the Riverfront Commission that we're looking to fill. So if you know of anyone that's interested, you can reach out to me personally or Carly and get my information.
Has this been shared with the River Arts District artists?
Other than the normal channels of it going out for seats, going on the city website and so forth, and whatever work that commission has done, but I probably could be done better. That's part of announcing it to you folks.
I'll ask them to send out a announcement through their channels.
That's good.
That would be wonderful.
Where can we point people who may be interested?
Excuse me.
Where can we point people who may be interested?
The website, just like applying for any board or commission, so the city website, the clerk's office, and that has all the open seats. You could direct them directly to me or Carly if you want. My name is David Hazard, dhazard@asheville.ac.gov, and we can point them in the right direction.
Thank you.
Absolutely, we appreciate it.
What's the deadline for that?
It's open right now, so we just had a round of applicants and we didn't have any applicants that really fit the requirements. So we're trying to get the word out to a larger audience. I thought this would be a perfect audience.
Could you, since we're missing some people today, could you send out emails? That way we can touch everybody. An email just to us. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Pete, I can't hear you. Dave, could you use a microphone?
Absolutely.
It is so hard to hear out here. If you do not use a microphone, I'm so sorry, but we can't hear right on the second row.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I don't know about the folks at home.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So now we're on to new business. John, if you have any new information on outdoor special events?
Just something to share with the community that the city's next round of applications are being accepted for the Event Support Grant Program administered by Arts AVL. We have until October 14th to get our applications together. And part of this application requires a sheet to be completed estimating the value of services you'll need from the city and I encourage people to give me a call for assistance in completing that spreadsheet so that we make sure we have the right numbers down for the grant value requested. But this is great. This is the opportunity that our community events in Asheville can make their requests for resources from the city to support their events in 2025. This is the one time a year opportunity that comes around.
We have 3 events that were supported in the first round coming up. There's Downtown After 5 this Friday, Blue Ridge Pride Fest on Saturday, and Goombay Festival next week.
That's right. Awesome.
Any questions?
Any questions for John?
Or
Okay, next we have a presentation. Andrew Ellington is here to talk to us about the Boomtown Arts and Heritage Festival, a little background information on how that's went. Really appreciate Andrew for joining us and giving us a quick recap of how the event went and how maybe this group, or if there's any synergies, can connect for future events.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, we had the chance to meet Andrew. There were several of us after the Urban Trail Award that got to be able to go out to Pack Square, and he was able to talk to us, and I was able to spend time with Andrew as well. A really interesting combination of history and music. I think it fits right into the wheelhouse of what it is we're doing here. One of the things that he had talked about was potentially talking to this group, because he wants to, as a founder, he wants to make it a recurring event, to be able to get feedback and to see where we might potentially have partnerships. So we invited Andrew to be able to come up, speak to how this event went, how he's looking at it going forward, and then just have any questions or open discussion around what we might be able to do to support this in the future. So Andrew?
Absolutely. Should I step up?
Yeah.
yeah, if you could,
Microphone
be
check,
great.
1, 2. Well, appreciate y'all inviting me here. You know, the festival was a huge undertaking this year. You know, I think the main gist of what I'm trying to capture here is kind of celebrating local arts and heritage with a focus on some of the history that I think helps everyone kind of be more aware of where our roots are and how we're all connected. You know, I think there's some very unique architecture here in Asheville that I do have a connection with my great-uncle Douglas Ellington, and I think that there's a lot of history that a lot of people don't know about here in Asheville as well that makes it very unique. So the idea was to kind of create something that feels kind of like a Bell Share, which is what I grew up going to, Leaf Festival, but with more of a focus on the community and some of the local arts and heritage here that I think makes Asheville very unique. I do think one of the pain points from Bell Share was the fact that it was driving business away from local businesses as opposed to kind of helping drive revenue into local businesses. So that's kind of one of my main focuses. I wanted to capture local businesses highlighted with vendors and food trucks and food tents. And the trail tours, I think, were a huge hit this year. Actually, I was the most excited to see how those went, just in regards to how many people are in attendance. We had Asheville by Foot walking tours that did the architecture trail tour. We called it the Boomtown Trail Tour. And every year that's going to highlight whatever buildings we're celebrating and basically have all the building anniversaries mapped out for the next 10 years as we're in the 20s of the 20s here. Next year will be 130 years of the Biltmore Estate, 120 years of, I can't remember the 120-year building, but it'll be 100 years of the municipal building, which is another James Vester Miller building. So the idea is to highlight those buildings every year and have that be part of the Boomtown Trail Tours, and then within highlighting those buildings, talk about all the key pioneers, architects, engineers, innovators, and then you know, leading into 2026, 27. I believe 27 is going to be the first year for Douglas's buildings. Douglas Ellington, it'll be First Baptist 100-year anniversary in 2027. Where we already have plans to have the symphony performing in there, and then 2028 will be the city building, this wonderful building here, and 2029 Asheville High, S&W for Ellington buildings, and plan is to do a setup on the football field at Asheville High in 2029. So plans are to expand every year, we have plans to expand to Rabbit Rabbit, Civic Center in coming years. I think next year will be the same footprint here in Pack Square. Really love the layout. I think having the stages the way we had them, with one up in North Pack facing that way, the acoustic stage going this way, and the symphony this way, helped with the sound, focusing the direction of the sound. I did bring in one of my partners from Austin that did all the production for the lights and the video wall, and the plan is to continue to build out the production, make it bigger and better every year. One of the main things I want to make sure we focus on next year is the projection mapping. It was huge undertaking with everything as is. Basically was kind of taking on most of the departments myself to keep my overhead low in year one, and turns out we actually need a whole month to actually map the buildings, to come and take renders, import them into CAD, and do actual projection mapping where we can like manipulate the buildings, have the windows close and open, have it look like they're falling down or building up. And the goal with that is by 2028 to be able to do the courthouse and make it look like it was supposed to look next to the city building, and be able to kind of have that be a branded part of the event where we're projection mapping on all the buildings. We're in talks with another organization that's going to be starting to do that. I don't want to spill the beans on who that is, but I think the projection mapping stuff is really cool. I've seen it at a handful of other festivals I've been a part of. It's very popular in Europe, and I think that can be a big part of how we brand this. And as we scale it and clone it and franchise it into different markets, the plan is to have it kind of expand to different notable cities that have notable architecture. Given that we can turn a profit and start turning profits to the goal is to use 50% of proceeds to donate to 5 to 10 beneficiaries each year. Did not turn a profit this year. Took a pretty hefty hit as expected, but I think externally it was a hit. Got a lot of good feedback that it felt like old school Asheville, and a lot of feedback that the production was on point. So I think hindsight, I'll definitely give myself some more runway as well. I've been planning it since January, but I also work as a talent agent full-time and have roughly 300 shows booked nationally this year that kind of took my full attention early on. So I think with more runway, I'll have more capability to collaborate with more folks and get more input. One of the goals post this year is to add a portal on our website where people can give feedback as to things they think that could have been better, and things that they liked specifically that we want to highlight more of in coming years, and really wanted to kind of become a voice of the city, so to speak, and allowing the local businesses to really come to the forefront and drive revenue into the community. I think one of the pain points that I understand came as a direct result of Boomtown and that era in the 20s was the Great Depression that led to our debts that we incurred until 77, and I think it was as a result of that there was the slow and progress of growth in the city, and so the goal is to celebrate that era while using the proceeds to kind of drive revenue back into some of the gaps that might have been created as a result of that era. So I think there's lots of room to collaborate with PACC, specifically in just highlighting some of the history pieces, specifically in highlighting the Urban Trail Tour for next year, and kind of figuring out ways we can add to the Urban Trail and or to the Architecture Trail to make it more of a branded thing that could grow every year. I think as this thing grows, given the attendance we had this year, I think we'll probably double it next year, and the goal is for this to kind of bring national attention to the architecture here and to the the local history here. I think it's very unique from what I understand, Asheville's history and all the pioneers that came down here, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, the history behind the Grove Park Inn being the President's Hotel, and just lots of history I've learned throughout the years, mainly through studying my uncle's buildings. I think there's a unique story to be told here that could gain national attention. So, want it to be a focus on local arts and heritage, but the goal is to bring in bigger headliners every year. Next year, in talks with a handful, I don't want to spill the beans on just yet, but the goal is to kind of focus on family-friendly talent by day, in line with some of the Tedeschi Trucks bands of the world, Billy Strings, Widespread Panic, Marcus King Band, things along those lines during the daytime, and then kind of brand more into electronic underground music at nighttime. And that's going to be more of a VIP invite-only situation that'll be, in branded warehouses. That piece I'm kind of still developing, but the goal with this year was to kind of highlight all the different communities within Asheville itself and within the Boomtown era. And I think getting into the history pieces allows us to kind of understand more of where our roots are and how we're all connected. So I think what y'all do with this organization is exactly in line with that. So I think that's, it's an open conversation as to at what capacity we could collaborate. But I think for starters, just adding the urban trail for next year, absolutely want to do that. And just figure out ways of cross-promoting through each other's channels as well. And yeah, so it was a good year. I was very grateful for the weather, very grateful for all the help from John.
You
Carly
definitely got very lucky on the weather.
Yeah, well, lots of prayers.
I was afraid for
My
you for a
grandma,
while.
so, yeah, me too. But it's been a pleasure working with John along the way. He was very quick to having answers for me immediately. We had backup holds, and that definitely makes me nervous with the weather. But I think as we expand it, the goal is to expand into the Civic Center and Thomas Wolfe as well, so that we can have multi-stages. And in the scenario that it does rain, the goal is also to, as we have more revenue and more investment, to be able to put an actual awning above the whole green area, so that it can be rain or shine, similar to how Leaf is able to do that. But yeah, lots of plans to up the production as well, just to kind of highlight. I feel like the pavilion itself is such a great piece. I love that stage is there. I feel like, looking at it from afar, it almost kind of looks like the annex was supposed to look between the two buildings. I think there's just a lot of room to grow the production. We kind of wanted to accent the shape of the stage this year, which is why we did that curved truss on there and the video wall. But my partner in Austin is a big production guy. He owns all the production stuff in-house, so goal is to kind of build out bigger and better production every year and really make the experience great. Given that we can get enough sponsorship, the plan is to make this thing free every year, even as we scale it all the way up. That is also a big piece I think we could be in close touch with, as to how we can do that in such a way that it doesn't get out of control like it did for Belshare. Figuring out ways to scale it and contain it. And I think a big piece of that is just going to be the talent that we focus on. And I think that is a direct reflection of the demographic and audience that we're going to attract. And I think that was one of the downfalls I saw with Moog Fest, with just the demographic it was attracting and the culture that it was bringing to the streets of Asheville. So just trying to, analyze my predecessors and figure out ways of making it feel more like Asheville, and build up into more of the history of Asheville, and having the trail tours be a big part of that, which I think is, as said, one of the direct ways we can start collaborating immediately for next year. So
Beautiful. Any questions or comments regarding this?
Sounds amazing. Thank you for sharing this
Yeah.
update and keeping us posted on how we can support your efforts.
that's what I was thinking too, to build on that as we get closer to that time. Touch base with us so we can have a better idea of what you're doing, and I'm sure you'll be thinking about what we can do to support you so we can kind of get ahead of the curve as you're thinking us through, not just each year, but kind of long range to be able to support it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think maybe a follow-up meeting where we can go over the timeline I have mapped out. I can also send you guys all a packet that has the timeline mapped out of all the buildings so that we can kind of figure out which ways we want to highlight those buildings. Carly had also asked me to note just things we thought we could do better. There's definitely going to be significantly more security next year for some of the backstage area. Ran into a couple issues with power. I think that's something that could be addressed with the city as a whole, just figuring out ways to make the venue more suitable for folks. Also understand the ADA is a big problem, just with not a lot of access for folks in that regard. And other than that, I think we're going to most likely have the symphony on the Sunday next year, being able to utilize all of Friday and Saturday for the full day. But other than that, just hopefully more support with partners, and not doing every single step by myself. I didn't have much of a life the past 3 months. So,
John, anything you'd add from an event standpoint?
Well, I thought the stage looked amazing. I have to say, it was incredible. I love the truss. I thought that was a great addition. I believe you're still looking at the weekend of June 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th?
That's correct,
That weekend. And we'll be coming up soon on the opportunity to get the application in for that weekend.
yep.
And I would encourage you to look towards that grant for some support for the city costs.
Yep.
If you have an opportunity to apply for that before October 14th. But no, my visit to Boomfest was wonderful. I loved the festival. I thought it was great.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, appreciate your work on this, Andrew. Thank you.
Other small thing I was thinking too is just having some road to Boomtown events where we can kind of start digging more into the story. I think that's something that we could also work on collaborating. I understand there's a lot of tours that happen, so figuring out more ways that we can kind of ramp up to the festival as well would be cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
So next we've got the PAC working groups to get updates on that. Katie, you want to go first?
Sure. So because of the boards and commissions summer leadership summit, where they're kind of reviewing some maybe universal standards for bylaws, we've decided to table working on the bylaws for a little bit and give them some time to figure out what their next steps are. So instead, we've started reviewing the public art policy. We have 3 different resolutions that all deal with different parts of the public art policy. So it's our goal to combine it all into one resolution and clarify it, because right now it is extremely confusing. So that will be the next steps for this working group moving forward.
Any questions for Katie on that? Pat?
So the Urban Trail Working Group had a meeting with Charlie and Leslie and Carly. And there were 2 other members of the Urban Trail Committee who would like to participate but were not available. So we still need to go through our work plan and assess that, but we've been mostly focused on the Art Deco trail marker that I'm providing an update on in more detail later in this meeting, and just talked about feedback and process around that. Any other input?
Suppress it.
Yeah. So.
Any questions for Pat or Charlie? Okay. And Rachel?
So we don't really have an update yet. We've only had our one, I don't know if this is working. Is this working?
It is.
Oh, it is, okay, the light's not on.
Yeah.
So we've had one meeting and we need to have another. And I don't have an update on, as to when that is, but hopefully we'll have that soon.
Okay. So potentially target by next meeting that we could.
I mean, yes, it should,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, any questions for Rachel? Okay.
Next is unfinished business. And Pat, I think that's you again.
So there was a focus group meeting on August 30th, and in attendance were PAC members. Were you there, Katie? No, it's just me. And some of the selection panelists, and Leslie representing the Urban Trail Committee, as well as the artist. And we talked about some general overview questions, and we focused on the call for artists and additional feedback that we got from the Urban Trail Committee. There was another iteration you can see on the slide. This is the second iteration where the artists took feedback from our last meeting when we did the tour. So at this point, Carly is still working on synthesizing all of the feedback from this focus group, as well as the Urban Trail Committee, who had a separate meeting and talked about it more in depth. And then that will be brought to the artist for next steps. So that's pretty much it.
And then we're now to the informal discussion, updates, future agenda items. And I didn't know, well, if there's any generic, we have a list here of upcoming events and so forth. We can go through those if you'd like, one by one, or if there are specific ones that folks want to pull out and talk about specifically.
I can cover these first three. So as John already said, we have our event support grant, which is open now through October 14th. Also, the Arts ABL is hosting a candidate forum event next Wednesday at the Orange Peel in partnership with the Asheville Brewers Alliance, Asheville Buncombe Hotel Association, Go Local, and Asheville Independent Restaurant Association. So this will be for city council candidates as well as Buncombe County Commission candidates. And then we have our annual State of the Arts brunch coming up in October on the 24th at Embassy Suites Hotel. This is a big event for the arts annually with the State of the Arts brunch, and the city, the county, and the TDA this year present how they support the arts in our community.
All right, I can talk about these next ones. So the Punk Flea Market is coming on Sunday, October 6th, which features vendors from all over the region and some local artists and craftspeople. And then the Asheville Skate Foundation is doing their fall fundraisers on October 11th and 12th. This is a nonprofit that's responsible for maintaining and building the foundation skate park in River Arts District. And so on Friday, October 11th, they're doing an art show at Push Skate Shop with art donated from artists in and around the skateboarding community. And then on October 12th, from noon to 5, they're having demos, best trick contests, raffles at Foundation Skate Park. And then at 7 p.m. at the Orange Peel, Hello Wolfbat is going on, which is live music performances, interactive art, and giant puppets.
And I can touch on the YMI's events coming up next week. So I hope everyone can attend the grand reopening. It'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony and an open house so people can tour the facility. And that's from 10 a.m. to noon. And then that really kicks off, that's Thursday morning, and then that kicks off Goombay Festival, which starts on Friday and goes through Sunday. And there's a full schedule on the YMI website, ymiculturalcenter.org. And everything is in Pack Square Park, except there are a couple functions that are happening at the YMI building, one of which is Andrea Clark's photography exhibit, which is in the corner spot. And there's also a play, kind of dinner and theater play, being held in the auditorium that people can purchase tickets for on Saturday night. So that's all.
Rachel, I'm curious, how did your festival go?
It hasn't happened
Oh,
yet.
it hasn't happened yet.
It's happening. It's starting tomorrow.
Oh,
Yes. So my heart's like just racing, but I think it's going to be good.
share with everybody the details.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're having the opening event for our first ever literary festival, Punch Bucket Lit. And it's also the only literary festival in Asheville, so we're really excited about that. It's going to be at Wortham, 7 o'clock. We're doing, it's called a rapid reading, and that doesn't mean that people are reading rapidly. It just means that there are 19 writers and authors who are going to only read for 5 minutes, and then they swap out. We have an intermission halfway through. I have a hard time sitting still for longer than 45 minutes, so I figure everybody else will, after an hour, need to stretch, so we'll have an intermission. And then those writers will also have longer readings the next day, throughout the day, in the Wortham Center. And then we have a keynote event, and that's all day from, we have a book fair too in the Wortham, so it runs from 9 to 5. And if you're, we want to go to a super early panel, you can go over to the Renaissance Hotel. Those panels start at 8:30, also go till 5. There's some workshops people can attend, and if they want to write as well. And then we have a keynote, which is with Lauren Groff, who's going to be arriving hopefully on time tomorrow afternoon, or Saturday afternoon, actually. And she's a 3-time National Book Award finalist, and then we also have a couple of fabulous poets, and they'll also be part of the keynote event. So really excited. It's going to be a busy weekend. Hope to see you all there.
Awesome. What's your website for people to go?
Thanks, Katie. The worst at marketing, I guess. Punchbucketlit.org.
Thank you, Rachel. So now we're opening up for public comment, either here or is anybody online?
We did not get any online comments.
Any comments in here? Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.